as canvassing, such as paying their membership fee and being present in rallies and supporting local parliamentarians and local political actors' activities, they have been able to state their case when Israel decided to retaliate forcefully, disproportionately to the attack by Hamas. And that has turned all political parties in Ireland to listen to their grassroots. Why? Because they know the grassroots provide them with support. They know the grassroots keep them in power and they can vote or not vote for them in elections. And as such, their policies and their posture has been determined by these grassroots. Take, for instance, other countries within the EU where you have these Palestinians and Arabs present. I call Arabs in quote, people from the Middle East who are sympathetic with the Palestinian cause. They have enrolled in political parties, even in the UK as we speak. And that has also engineered a call for elections in the UK, although the UK is a staunch ally of Israel, having been the colonial master of Palestine. So what are we going here? We are simply demonstrating how instruments of the UN have been unable to put pressure on Israel. Remember, there have been more than 20 resolutions in the UN putting pressure on Israel to recognize or to at least respect human rights, give back territory that was seized in the 1967 war. But Israel has frowned at all of these resolutions with disdain. Israel has been able to show non-commitment to all of this religion, to a certain extent, I would say disregard the United Nations with the help of the US. But with this new community mobilization, or what we call the bottom-up approach in recognizing Palestine, the hope and the trajectory is that more pressure will be put on Israel, particularly the leadership in Israel, to listen to the international community, to recognize that Palestinians are a people, to recognize that Palestine has a territory with its border as in 1967, but also to recognize that Palestinians exert power in terms of Hamas and Fatah in Gaza and West Bank respectively. So that aligns with the three criteria of statehood that the president was talking. I think I yield for now without taking too much time, and I'll chime in again as we move on.
Spokes, one moment before you get in, let me emphasize what the vice president has said is very important on the issue of a bottom-up approach, grassroots mobilization, and the Amazonian scenario. Realize that from 2017 to about 2020-21, Amazonian grassroots mobilization altered, several policies within Western powers, from London to Berlin to the United States. There were several resolutions in the U.S. Senate due to Amazonian grassroots mobilization. The importance of grassroots mobilization cannot be overstated. If you see what is going on in U.S. campuses with students sitting, and if you take the case of the United Kingdom with the elections called up in July, or if you take the change in policies by the Biden administration in not sending certain kinds of munitions to Israel, or tying the sending of those ammunitions to the allowing of aid. It has not simply been because the US administration has decided to alter its policy. They realize it's an election year. The grassroots mobilizers can alter, the outcome of the election, and would affect the Democrats in a very significant way. So these two approaches, from the static or institutional approach, which has failed in the last 50 years, to the bottom-up approach, which is altering the way that policies are formulated, actions are being taken within certain countries, uh, should really remind Amazonians of the importance of their actions. And that's why in my last outing, I made it absolutely clear that between now and October 1, it is important for Amazonians to reignite the spirit of grassroots mobilization and to be part and parcel of the vehicle of change that is needed at this particular moment for the case of our country. Spokes, let me let you chime in.
What, Mr. President, what you have said in terms of the three criteria made that qualifies a state or a people to be recognized, and what the Vice President has also stated in terms of grassroots mobilization, those things are very important. You can have that grassroots mobilization. One of the reasons, and something we all need to be studying, is why has the grassroots mobilization now intensified? The conflict has been going on for a very long period of time, even before all of us were born. Why has now that grassroots mobilization intensified? And why do so many young people across the globe, including in Canada, in Norway, in the United States, in Ireland, all across the globe, why are they so much interested, engaging, and carrying out actions to push to not only the end of this conflict, but to make sure that the Palestinian people can have a state of their own, can gain that recognition, and have an established government that can take care of the affairs of the Palestinian people? That's a question we all should be asking and be examining. It comes to what did Netanyahu ultra religious zealots are doing in Gaza in the name of religion, in the name of their birthright to that piece of real estate. What Netanyahu government is doing to the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. As of today, more than 35,000 Palestinians have been murdered. Most of them children. 90% of all hospitals, schools, churches, mosques, communication systems in terms of foreign TV studios, radio stations, NGOs have all been bombed completely to the ground. These things are unconscionable. These are nothing any father, any mother, any child can accept as a response to an act of violence. Israel has gone above and beyond and has lost even the sympathy it has enjoyed over the last maybe 50 years. The action of Israel or the reaction of Israel to Hamas attack of October 7 has changed global perception of what Israel is, what its aims are, and Israel has proven itself to be, the Netanyahu government has proven itself to be not a country that is interested in either solving the problem, addressing the problem, but is interested to do exactly what Mr. Biya, the Cameroon terrorist military, the CPDM fascist regime are doing to the Amazonian people. It's the exact same thing. Dispossession, extermination, all reports from the human rights, from the Amnesty International, all report from Human Rights Watch, all report from Ben Salem, the most human rights organization in Israel. They have all pointed out that what Israel is doing, including the ruling in ICJ, the case between South Africa versus Israel in ICJ, all have concluded what Israel is doing in Gaza or in the Palestinian territory constitute to act of genocide in order to exterminate the Palestinian people to possess the land. Those crimes, the killing of women and children, the killing of babies, rendering millions of people homeless, these things have pushed the young people, young Arabs, young Americans, young Europeans, young Canadians to the streets, to campuses, to tell global elites, this cannot go on. We will not allow this to happen again, not in our lifetime. You may have done those things in the past. We will not accept that. And anyone who stands to support these crimes, the killings of babies, the killings of mothers, just destroying entire communities, entire cities, and entire towns, if this is what we support, your government will go down. This is an information campaign, a grassroots mobilization based on a conscience, a love for humanity, a call for the respect, the rights of children, the rights of people to exist, the right for people to have their own state. What we are seeing is it's a grassroots mobilization driven by an ideology, a new ideology for the respect of human rights, a new ideology for the respect of those international laws that have been crafted by these nations. But because of global power, they will disobey, disregard those international laws because of global power. But the power of the grassroots, the power of community mobilization, the power of information communication, the young people that control TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, that's the currency of today. The Amazonian people have done really well. We've used that same grassroots mobilization. We've used that same utilization of social media, of Facebook, of YouTube, of TikTok to drive our message and change international perception for the Amazonian cause. And I think, as the Vice President has stated, as the President has also stated, if our people can reignite the power of the grassroots, if Amazonians in the diaspora can show that love, suffering of our people on the ground, can show the sympathy and compassion for what our people are going through, the killings of our people, the burnings of our home, the destruction of who we are as a people, if diaspora can reignite that love and not let stupid political policies, not let corruption by failed leaders, not let movements that have died disengage them from what matters to our people and for what our people have been fighting for, I think we'll do very well. And I think the president is doing a great job in leading the Amazonian people, showing an example, re-engaging, reigniting the commitment and the passion of our people. I think it's a matter of time for most Amazonians to be re-engaged.
Vicky, let me transition to you. I will do transition most of the time. I think thanks, spokesman, but for the very passionate, substantive arguments you've made. And I want to pick on to something you've touched before the vice president comes in. It's the idea of impunity, which has happened since October 7, after Hamas invaded Israel. I think Israel had an opportunity to act in a way that will solidify its support and its claim of its right to exist. I will go back into history after the vice president must have spoken to map the trajectory of the evolution of the Palestinian conflict and the creation of the state of Israel, and for our people to understand this tragic journey and how it reflects what we have gone through. But the aspect of impunity is very important. If you look at the actions of Israel, and if you look at the way Netanyahu has conducted himself, you see Mr. Bia immediately. The way Israel has made the argument is using the idea of the existential threat on the Jewish people. That is the argument that has been used for more than half a century to be able to justify disproportionate actions. And I believe the Israelites have been hijacked by these right extremists, the same way that the state of Cameroon has been hijacked by the thugs and the barbarians, and consistently using and I'm making the argument in a very smart way, rather than looking at a war against the Palestinian people. They have declared a war against Hamas because it resonates internationally, since Hamas has been declared a terrorist organization. Its methods too has been very questionable, and so Israel thought it could get away with carpet bombing, the kind of Dresden approach to bombing an entire city. And why I want to touch on this is because it relates very strongly to the idea of self-determination and to the concept of recognition. Every people have a right to establish a government over them, because that is the instrument that can be used to exercise both state obligation and state rights. One of the most important aspects of state obligation is the protection of the people within that state. That's why the third element of state recognition, which is the demonstration of power, which can be reflected in the establishment of a government, is very critical in recognition. And the fact that the Israelites have systematically, I'm not talking about it's a policy, and all of us follow the case in the ICJ between South Africa and versus Israel. And we saw clearly how the South Africans demonstrated the policy of intent in the actions of Israel. It proved it clearly that there is an element of intent in terms of the rhetorics, in terms of the planning, in terms of the systematic approach to delivering this kind of violence. And I think, and you're right, that when the grassroots, because forget about the static systems, the institutional approach that should be able to invoke the right of recognition of the state and the government in order to give them the chance to protect their own people. Once the grassroots became, drew the conclusion that the states, the institution are trapped in a system that they cannot extricate themselves from, then the now use what the vice president has raised here, the power of their vote, the power of their wallet, the what you have raised about the TikTok, Instagram, different medium through which they could influence policy, influence others, and call Israel's bluff. It empowered different countries to be able to recognize Israel. But let me conclude on this. And this is very important. When you see the actions of Cameroon in Amazon, when you listen to people like Atanganji, if you listen to people like Bia, you know definitely that the use of state violence in a disproportionate way is a policy. The burning down of villages, the burning of homes, the getting of young Amazonian males, they are all policies designed to exterminate, designed to eliminate viability, the imposition of conditions that are incompatible with human life also fulfills this kind of systematic violence. And as you have called, I hope Amazonians will come to the realization that continuous engagement, continuous mobilization will alter our collective destiny. VP.
Thanks a lot, Mr. President. Thanks, spoke. And you have clearly likened the actions of Israel in Palestine to those of Cameroon in Amazonia, and why Norway, Ireland, and Spain would intervene through grassroots mobilization, through grassroots call for something to be done. But it is also the case that Norway and Ireland represent one of the leading countries in respecting the rule of law, human rights. Because you would recall, and Amazonians would recall, Cameroon has tagged us rats. It's a policy. Cameroon has tagged us all inhumane names, and they follow on their policy to make sure that those considered as inhumane, the Amazonians, are exterminated. And that has been done so much. But countries like Norway, where I know most Amazonians will know this, the president resides in, countries like Ireland, where I reside in, these are countries that have stood both privately and publicly for human rights, for upholding international rules and norms. And as such, we can recall that all of us sitting here have been reported to our different institutions by Cameroon in an attempt to dehumanize, in an attempt to circumvent the principles and the values that these two states hold dear and underpinned by their policies. So what are Amazonians supposed to do in this situation? What we've been able to do in our countries of residence, and I think this might not come as a surprise, but it will be to many, is that the Ambazonian Governing Council, through the president, through the vice president, have engaged both at local level, at political and at diplomatic level, these two countries, to bid for Ambazonia. And I think we have severally told Ambazonians that there are countries that the Ambazonian Governing Council rather have engaged to bid for Ambazonia. However, what Ambazonians need to do, remember, Palestine and those that support Palestine have been very vocal at the international, through international institutions, through the UN, through Human Rights Watch. But what has brought this change in approach is not the way different countries and different institutions at higher level have engaged Israel or have engaged the Israelites, but it is how the Palestinians have engaged in the political systems out of Palestine. And as such, it is my contention and my request for Ambazonians, wherever you are resident, join a political party. Ambazonia has depended so much on sympathy from the political elites in their different countries. They have depended a lot on people holding the values of humanity at heart in order to push the Ambazonian cause. But we have seen from the Palestinians that, well, in the last 10 years, they have become members of political parties. They have engaged in their local councils with their local politicians. And through that, with other approaches like the TikToks and rules, and to be seen to do the right thing, as these two countries said, that they want to be on the right side of history, Norway and Ireland, have been able to push the case of Palestine in the direction that Palestinians want. So, for Ambazonians, we have done very well in terms of community mobilization, but that mobilization has mostly been within the Ambazonian community. In the coming weeks and months, the AGOVC would be putting out a blueprint on how we can do community mobilization out beyond our community, especially for the diasporans, and how diasporans can participate and become engaged in the civil and political systems of their own countries, even at local level. You don't have to stand for elections, but you can. Palestinians and Nigerians have shown us. Even without standing for elections, you can influence policies. You can go into the office of your local parliamentarian. You can go to the office of your local mayor. And because you hold the vote, because you are a member of that political party or not, but of a different political party, and they know your vote can haunt them, and they know you have supported the activities of the party in one way or the other. Sometimes must not be financial. It could just be by sparing an hour a week or an hour a month in order to engage in party activities, in order to attend party events, in order to influence policy or to make proposals. That in itself goes a long way, and it's a long-term approach. We have been kind of looking at short-term approaches which do not bear fruition. Palestinians have engaged in this long-term approach, and after 10 years, we are seeing the results. We know they have done that, but it is in the last decade that Palestinians and those sympathetic with Palestinians have used grassroots methods in order to galvanize support, in order to push their own agenda, because they realized that international institutions were so political and they were so neo-colonialist in their posture. And as such, they could not make any headway. Therefore, they looked for other methods. So this is where we are. And I think the journey that Ireland has undertaken I will chime more on that to where they are after the president speaks.
Thanks a lot, VP. Rich content. I'll let the spokesman chime in before I come in on the trajectory of the, or what I call the root cause. We always talk about the Amazonian case. We talk about the root cause of the conflict between us and Cameroon. I would like to touch on the root cause of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and how that reflects in its entirety, historically and in terms of the moment, the situation that we face with Cameroon. Spokesman.
Thank you, Vice President. What has happened with Spain, with Ireland, with Norway? The Prime Minister of my own country here, Mr. Trudeau, has made a statement. The Minister of Global Affairs said Canada is also looking and taking steps to recognize Palestine. There are certain conditions Canada has to fulfill. So the dice will keep rolling in favor of the future. What has happened here is the excessive use of force. Netanyahu response, disproportionate and overwhelming response to destroy and kill massive number of children, of women, and destroy entire cities. No father, no mother can live with that. The world has not acted the way it should have acted to halt this aggression, to halt this destruction. So states like this will take these bold moves as a leverage, as a signal, as a message to someone like Netanyahu and the Israeli government to tell them, if this is what you are going, this is how you are going, these are the steps we will take to stop you and to stop your killings, to stop your destruction, to stop your human rights abuses, to stop your war crimes, to stop your crimes against humanity. These are very powerful statements against Israel. These are very, not only politically, but very symbolic and significant steps in altering international behavior. Mr. President, I know you have a lot to talk about this. I will let you talk about this and package it in the way that it will fit into the context of why states, why the recognition of Ambazonia is inevitable if Mr. Biya and the Cameroon Roots government continue with their war, with their genocide and the war of Amazonian people. The world will have no choice than to recognize Amazonia in order to stop the abuse.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Spokesman. Something is very important here, and Amazonians will have to understand this. Recognition is important in giving a state kind of international personality. Recognition is important in establishing relationships with different countries. It may not be necessary in your existence because you can still exercise state power without formal recognition. We have Palestine, though recognized by more than 130 countries, is not having a UN seat. We have Taiwan, though not basically recognized, is exercising power. We have even Somaliland, just been recognized by Ethiopia in a questionable way, but yet it has been exercising a state power. Recognition is important, but Amazonians must take home today that the three conditions that are necessary for the state to be recognized are basically almost fulfilled. Having a territory, having a people, and exercising state power. And that brings me to another point before I get into the historical trajectory, which the spokesman had spoken about, I think, more than 6 months ago, the concept of self government. And I think the vice president also touched it here. What Amazonians need to do is to exercise self government in terms of their education, in terms of leveraging their power in taxation, in terms of ensuring that policies that are inconsistent with the survival of Amazonians are enacted, in ensuring that there's a clear demarcation and rules on the ground that gives a very strong and positive relationship between our forces and our people, and in basically making sure that the actions of La Republic, its policies on the ground, are seen as alien to the Amazonian community. And I think the Amazonian Governing Council has been able to provide that leadership. But let me touch a bit before I go to the Vice President on this trajectory. It's very important because people are asking the question, how did we get here? you know, yeah, these people have been fighting every day. What happened? People have many stories. We have even biblical stories about whatever we talked about. That's where uh, 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 things happen. Jerusalem is there, you know. So, what is happening in God's own territory? And so, if in God's own territory there is perpetual fighting and suffering, what hope do we really have? So, Palestine has been uh, um, a British mandate. Familiar? Palestine has been a British mandate as far back as from 1917 till up to 1947. It was a British mandate. What is called today Palestine and Israel was known as Palestine, was a British mandate. So what happened? And that brings me to what I call every mandate should lead to self-government and independence. Why didn't it happen for Amazonia? Why didn't it happen for Palestine? There is an important letter here I would like to read. And first, let me state clearly the root cause of the Palestinian conflict is in what we call the Balfour Declaration.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Balfour Declaration. Sir Balfour was a foreign affairs authority who addressed a letter on November 2nd, almost 1947, to Lord Rothschild. And he said, I have much pleasure in conveying to your own behalf and on behalf of the Majesty of Her Majesty's government the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet, i.e., the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. This letter is the root cause of the conflict between Palestine and Israel. The United Kingdom, as the trustee, basically in sympathy with the pain that the Jewish people had gone through World War II, including the Holocaust, decided that Palestine was going to be divided into two, one for the Arabs and one for the Jews. And this led to what I call an Arab revolt and the Declaration of Independence by the Jewish component in 1948 and the establishment of the State of Israel. And that led to what I call the Arab Revolt, massive displacement of Palestinian people. So this has been a war as far back as 1948. And so this is important because this is exactly what happened to Amazonia. Instead of granting us our independence, you know, first, don't forget the British also divided their own territory into two and then handed part to northern Nigeria and decided we were either going to be part of the Eastern House of Assembly or we form a federation um, with Cameroon. But what has happened that the conflict has been prevalent, that a solution has not been found. It is also because of the Israeli claim of the territory being their ancestral homeland and compromises being made by Israel to ultra orthodox radicals who have decided to continuously expand the territory of the Jewish state, claiming most of the territories of Palestine. The international community has recognized the borders to be the borders of 1967. And the reason why there has been reluctance in recognition has been because the international community has held that recognition should only come through bilateral negotiations by both parties. The essence of this approach has been that only through negotiations would the parties agree on a border that may not be the 1967 border that is recognized as the international border between the state of Israel and the state of Palestine. So the reluctance of the United States, Britain, and the others has been that a recognition of the Palestinian state is a de facto recognition of the 1967 borders because you cannot recognize the state without recognizing its inherent borders. And if they do that, it will go against the Israeli state policy that the 1967 border is a disputed border. And so the decision by these three countries is not only about this kind of formal recognition of the existence of the Palestinian state, it's also giving assent to the United Nations held position that the border between Israel and Palestine is the 1967 border. We have argued, we have argued, and successfully so, that and that has been also been upheld by the uh, African Union Constitutive Act in its Article 4, that you cannot simply alter your border at independence. You cannot, as the spokesman said, and it's the Professor Carson Anyangwe has written about the principle of uti possidetis. You cannot simply dispossess a people of their land, which is exactly what Israel has attempted to do, making the contours of a Palestinian state that does not start from the 1967 border not viable. So if Palestine will agree that, okay, we are going to negotiate this border and it ends up that it is not going to be the 1967 border, the Palestinian state will not be viable. Similarly, Cameroon has used the kind of almost biblical argument used by the Israelites, their ancestral homeland, to claim that, you know, somehow biblically, there was always one Cameroon. There was always one Cameroon. Listen carefully. I talked about the British mandate I mean, far back as 1967. Don't forget, Ambazonia was not even part of that so-called German Cameroon until 1887. Between 1884 to 1887, when the Germans had taken over this territory of Cameroon, we were under the British, and we only fell within the German state of Cameroon in 1887. So the ancestral homeland that Cameroon has become the mother state that it has the power to claim every other inch of that territory of Cameroon except that held by Chad, Gabon, Central Africa, is
And Congo.
so Ambazonians should know that this is important. VP, let me not take a lot of time before you come in. Ambazonians must know this. The concept of statehood in its modern form is as young as 1648. The Westphalian concept of statehood. The concept of statehood in Cameroon and in Ambazonia is as old as 1960 and 1961. There has never been anything as the state of Cameroon. Never. There has been the territory created, stitching together peoples by colonialists. And when I read somewhere, somebody said, "Oh, who gave you the right to just ascribe yourself Ambazonia?" And I said, "Well, thank God it's indigenous. I mean, if you are claiming that we don't have a right to ascribe to ourselves Ambazonia, what gives you the right to simply take what some guys passed around in Ribawuri and Son Janga and call it Rio dos Camaros, and you then assign to yourself the name Janga, and you are able to have the audacity to question people who ascribe to themselves a name that is indigenous to their existence?" So Ambazonians should relegate all of these historical fallacies. They should reject all of this Ngongo nonsense. They should be able to know that our existence is not subject to any international arbitration, is not subject to the whims and caprices of colonial apologies or what they think. All their historical fallacies is debunked. All their claim about so-called ancestral homeland is a fallacy which we must reject. And I think the recognition by the trial of the right of the Palestinian people and inherently recognizing their border with Israel should give hope to our people that sooner than later, what is a reality is going to be attested through by other countries.
Rightly so, Mr. President. I think you have nailed it in explaining the concept of statehood and the relative youngness of the state of Cameroon and Ambazonia. And I will make 3 points. One, that the borders of Cameroon, the borders of Ambazonia, the borders of Cameroon, just like the borders of Israel and Palestine, are non-negotiable. The borders of Ambazonia are contained in the Milner's Treaty of 1931. So for Cameroon to claim part of Ambazonia is being short-sighted. The second point I'll make is that although the crimes of Putin are enormous in Ukraine, but the leveling of homes by Netanyahu, the killing of Mami Apia by Paul Biya, makes Putin look like a saint in front of these two barbarians. The third point I want to make is that Cameroon is shivering because, bear in mind, business people from Israel are the mentors of the brutal barbarian Biya in Cameroon. They are their trainers, they are their advisors, and they do everything for that genocide regime. And as such, this development in the international system to recognize Palestine by states and not yet formally by the UN is being watched by Cameroon. And it should be watched more so by Ambazonians, because just as you mentioned, the British are at the origin of the predicament of Palestine. The British are at the origin of the predicament of Ambazonia. The British were at the origin of the predicament of Somaliland. The British were at the origin of the predicament of Ireland. Today, Ireland haven't suffered as a colony of the United Kingdom, just like Ambazonia, decided to take up arms to fight because they were an indigenous people. They had their own territory prior to the Norwegians coming to Ireland, and the British only came after. And as such, the British fought to keep Ireland for 800 years. That's to tell you that the Irish fought for their independence for 800 years. But it never stopped any generation from claiming to become British. And nowadays in Ireland, even though we are neighbors, but if you talk about Britain or British, people just look at you as, are you kidding me? It is the same. It's to tell Cameroon, they are dealing with an ideology. If they kill General Efang, they have killed the body. But the ideals of Ambazonia are imbued in every generation, in the yet unborn. And as such, we will fight Cameroon to the last person to maintain our territory that has its borders. We will fight Cameroon to maintain our identity. We will fight Cameroon to continuously emphasize to them that the 2 cubes of sugar that you thought you're going to do away with them, dissolve them in your basin of water, they are going nowhere, because the Irish never relented their efforts. The Irish have, through their sufferings under the British, just like the Palestinians and Ambazonians and other people that were colonized by the British have suffered, decided that, well, after our independence, we're going to stand with those that seek for their own dignity. We're going to align with people that seek to establish their own political, economic, and social future. And as such, you would realize that the Irish standing for South Africa during the apartheid years and even post-apartheid, it is an open secret that the current South African constitution was drawn up in Talbot Street in Dublin. It is an open secret that institutions in South Africa were drafted in Dublin. And as such, Dublin or Ireland has always stood for the underdogs. Standing with underdogs aligns with Irish values of self-determination, of dignity, of upholding human rights. And to side with Palestine, even though they sided with Israel in the beginning, is a continuation of this deep-seated distrust for the British, because through their empire, through their colonial adventure, the British have been very good not to grant independence, but to grant what we call half-baked systems, or at times they just sell them off, like they did with the French in Ambazonia, where they sold Ambazonia to the French. But Cameroon and the French, your days are numbered. Once we start spending the liberation tax, Cameroon would know who owns Ambazonia. So from this little history of Ireland and how the Irish uphold the dignity of humans, how the Irish value a people, how the Irish resonate with how people struggle on earth, and based on their own experience of struggling under the British, that led to the Irish being at the forefront of granting Palestinians what they have longed for decades. That led the Irish to stand for Palestine. And what are we doing? And as I said, we are engaging with these countries, both at the higher level, but also at the local level. And we encourage every Ambazonia, wherever you are, to participate, to engage, not to petition, but to engage and influence. If you are outside, you cannot influence. You can only influence from the inside. If you do so wherever you are engaged, wherever you reside, you are going to have more political purchase in order to push Ambazonians' cause, in order to push Ambazonians' quest for freedom ever closer. I think the president can chime in more on the trajectory of Norway and how it came to this position. I hear.
Rich one, VP, rich one. Spokesman, you have the last word. Once I speak, I'll give you the floor to have the last word. And
Mr. President, I think let me chime in, and then you have the last word so that you can help us.
Okay.
What I wanted to add is that the conflict in Palestine. I did an outing about an 1 hour outing when this conflict between Hamas and Israel started. We talked about the root cause of this, and I talked more detail about the Balfour Declaration during that outing to educate our people about the consequences of the British policy to decide to create this. They actually wanted, when the British were looking for where should they create the state of Palestine, Ambazonia to be, it's very interesting to know that they actually were looking at Angola as well, not only Palestine, but they were also looking at to create the state of Israel in the current, to split Angola into two to create the state of Israel in Ambazonia. So most of Israelis now, if that decision had gone forward, then most Israel would have been created in part of, would have been Angola would have been divided into two, and Israel will now be in the continent. That notwithstanding, this conflict has gone on for so long. Many wars have been fought. Israel has conquered territories within Palestine. In the 1967 war, Israel gained new territories. They include the Sinai Peninsula, which it traded for peace in 1979, the Golan Heights. They captured the West Bank. They captured the Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem in the 6-day war. Cameroon has never gone to war with Ambazonian and captured any of Ambazonian territory. What we all need to know is, I've said this and we're going to, the failure of a people, when the people of Palestine had the land, even before the Israeli came, they failed to organize themselves. They failed to develop themselves. They failed to build themselves. They failed to build a state for themselves. Even before the Balfour Declaration, Ambazonians, they gave us through trusteeship, through the mandate, and then through trusteeship. We failed to develop ourselves. We failed to build ourselves. When we left the Eastern House and declared self-governance, we build institutions without protecting them. There are consequences for any people that cannot protect themselves. When the Jewish people move in, when they gave them a homeland through the Balfour Declaration, and they moved themselves all across the globe, people that were homeless, they decided to do one thing. The first thing they did was to build power. They've been given a homeland. They wanted to build dignity for their people. They used the education, they used their wealth, they used their knowledge to build a society and to give the Jewish people the dignity they've never had. They've always lived as humiliated people. They used their pain, their humiliation, and they summoned a determination that has never been seen before by any other state. My appeal to the Amazonian people.
Spokes, one moment. One moment before you go to your appeal, please. I just wanted to add. I just wanted to add something to what you are saying, and which is consistent with what the vice president has said, and what the deaf chair was trying to call in to participate. So I'll possibly allow him call in. But please, before you make that appeal, one of the things the Jews have also done is to do exactly what the vice president has raised. They have integrated themselves in every socio-economic and political structures across the globe and influence power. Everywhere you go, in the biggest businesses, in the corridors of power in the United States, somebody is there from the Jewish community to speak for them. I just want to emphasize this point that the vice president is making in passing, that we should not adopt these short-term, shortcut approaches to our freedom. You cannot leverage power simply by petitioning. Go ahead, sir.
That was my second point, but thanks for bringing that up earlier, Ellie. Is that the Amazonian people across the globe and on the ground, the Jewish people across the globe, even in Ireland, they have created what they call the Jewish lobby. It's the single most powerful organization in the world, including in the United Nations, including in the US Senate, in the US Congress. It influences every decision. Every president to be elected, you must stand up for the Jewish state or you will not be elected. I suggest every Amazonian should read a book written by Professor John Mearsheimer called The Israeli Lobby. It's the most powerful book written about the power of influence. So we should, as the president has said, we should not only build power on the ground, which is my appeal. We should help the Amazonian people. We should help the Amazonian forces. We should build power for our people. Our existence should never again be threatened by anyone. Not to talk of a cave people like Cameroon. We failed to do that when we left the Eastern House. Cameroon took advantage of it, and today we are paying the price. The Israeli had a chance. They gave them a piece of land. It says, this is your state. They have built what no one else has ever done in that part of the globe. Even though today they are abusing that power and they are abusing that influence. But the first thing they did was to make sure they are never threatened. That's why they are always insisting. They are using the threat that Israel faces as their own mobilization or their own communication strategy. We can also use the same, the threat to the existence of Amazonia. But for us We must help our people to be able to protect themselves. We must help our people to be able to defend themselves. We must help our people to make sure that Cameroon never threatens us again. I know this is something the president has talked for so many times, but it's something we need to emphasize. It's very critical, even as we work towards recognition, our ability to prove to the international community that first, we can do the best we can with what we have, but that we have a determination to make sure that the Bulu barbarians will never threaten to burn another 1,200 villages or kill another 40,000 Amazonians. That is our responsibility. First, as Amazonians. Second, the diasporans. All Amazonians in the diaspora, just as all Palestinians, have played a critical role in altering policies in the West. We Amazonians in the diaspora, as the Vice President has said, we have a moral, national, patriotic responsibility for those who left back home. For those who left back home. We owe them so much. They are paying a price. The best we can do it is to support them with the policies that the leadership is providing. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you very much, Mr. VP, for this exchange.
Thank you.
The dev chair is on the call. He wants to participate. It looks like we are gingering the dev chair and others. So I will come back. Dev chair, unmute yourself. All right.
Hello, Mr. President.
Yes, you are live. You are live, boy. So you can chime in.
Oh my goodness, your discussions got me up.
Yes, come in. The Vice President is listening. The spokes is listening.
I want to thank the VP spokes. This has been a very, very rich and enlightening conversation. The most disappointing thing is that it had to take thousands of deaths. Thousands of deaths before the herd mentality in the West got broken. They have one foreign policy, all of them. They follow one beat, one drum, and it had to take the massacres and murders in the tens of thousands for a break to happen within them. It is something that at this particular moment I am really in awe and in shock that to allow American foreign policy to be decided at the Elysee Palace and Whitehall. And they are at the brink. If not, they have lost Africa because of that. It is a real disappointment when I saw the South African submission at The Hague. And I sat there as an African and I asked myself how those who should be batting for Africa are expending so much goodwill, so much effort, jumping over genocides happening in their own backyard to go and parade in front of the world, batting for others. The South Africans cannot claim ignorance about the suffering and the massacres going on in Amazonia. They cannot claim ignorance of what is happening in Congo. How is it that the plight of these Africans does not register to the same degree for them? And that is we Africans. So while I empathize at this particular moment, there is nothing satisfying about any of these developments where I'm concerned. Where is Laurent Gbagbo? Where is Laurent Gbagbo? Where is Gaddafi? Have these people done one tenth or 1,000,000 of the disasters that are occurring in Palestine and in Europe? Gbagbo is in prison. Gaddafi is dead because of an idea that they are massacring their people. They are slaughtering their people. While the Mr. Paul Bias are accepted, while the Americans roll them the red carpet, and the Europeans, you know, we the people, we must rise up as the Amazonians are rising up, and ordinary Africans and all over the world must rise up for Africa and these struggles that are going on in Africa. It is our only way out, because depending on declarations from these people, I don't think Rwanda even resulted in a declaration for them. So we have to form that alliance, the alliance that has pushed the Irish government and the others to break ranks with the people, with the grassroots. And they must realize the genocides that are being fostered in Africa. Okay, Mr. President, spokes VP, una please the name.
Thanks a lot, DevShare. Thanks for coming in. Passionate. See you later. All right. Let me. All right. Just leave. It looks like we are just the two of us remaining. Our spokesman has stepped out. VP. Let me just. I will say something very short about Norway. But I would like to say something about the concept of power, which the spokesman has eloquently spoken about. You know, when we insist on arming ourselves, people think, we think violence. People see arming ourselves as simply an art of, wanting war. No, it's based on the concept of power. The story of Israel is very important. Immediately, the Palestine was partitioned, Israel declared its independence. Before that declaration, the United States was worried because it had seen the preparation of other Arab states against that possibility. And if Israel will be able to withstand any kind of Arab onslaught, Israel declared its independence. And since then, it has never looked back in ensuring that its power was unrivaled. It is the only nuclear power in the Middle East. It has continuously developed its power. It has continuously developed its alliances to be able to ensure that it is powerful enough. Unfortunately, as the spokesman has stated, it has used this power in also ensuring that its own security is at risk. When Ambazonians left the Eastern House of Assembly, Ambazonians have been more philosophical in ensuring that they can realize their dreams. They think by dreaming, they were almost like the kind of Martin Luther approach, this having a dream without building the kinds of institutions that will sustain that dream. Ambazonians have believed that the justness of their cause alone, the legal validity of their case, the historical validity of their claim is strong enough to overcome the ruthlessness of a determined adversary. That is not true. My experience in the past 35 years has shown me that every time we have made any claim, no matter how small, Cameroon has developed a big picture approach. If you say, oh no, we want a university, Cameroon is not looking at the university. Cameroon is like, what does that mean? After university, what next? You know, if you talk about anything, your educational system or your legal tradition, Cameroon is not simply looking at the law or educational system. It's like, this is going towards independence. And Cameroon comes in with power to suppress us immediately. That is why in the last 7 years, we have spoken nothing other than shoring the Amazonian power. Because apart from living in a neighborhood of hawks, we understand that historically, if we had spent just 1 year strengthening ourselves, PowerCam would still be around. Our road infrastructures will still be around. Our banks will still be around. All the parastatals that drove our economy will still be around. Our internal airport will still be around. The Tico Seaport will still be around. The Victoria Deep Seaport will still be around. What were we doing? We were dreaming while awake. What are we left with? Edea, Douala, Yaoundé, French, everything about us taken away by Cameroon. But let me compare that to the Norwegian journey. The population of Norway is 5.5 million. We are almost 10 million. Population of Amazonia, 10 million. Norway has a GDP of about 580 billion US dollars. It's one of the richest countries in the world. All the resources that Norway has are the same resources that we have in Amazonia. If you look at Norway's history, Norway was almost 400 years in union with Denmark. The Norwegian and the Danish language are similar. Norway was almost 100 years in union with Sweden. The Norwegian and the Swedish language, is also almost similar. Currency, the same, until the euro came into town. But what is important here is that why did Norway not simply surrender itself to Denmark? Why did Norway not simply surrender itself in a union with Sweden despite the similarities? Why did it have to declare its independence and assert its sovereignty over its own territory? Why is Scotland, with devolution of powers, democracy, the respect of human rights, not simply surrender itself to the United Kingdom? It's fighting for independence because people have pride reflected in their identity, and that no matter the conditions of luxury that people find themselves under dominion, they always seek to make sure that they have a sense of pride in independence. 1940, Hitler rolled tanks into Oslo and took over Norway. The king and his son escaped into a city called Molde and then later escaped to London, where they were at the Buckingham Palace. And Hitler started bombing London. And they moved up to Scotland. And from exile, they organized the resistance against Hitler. Hitler appointed a Norwegian, Quisling, as the prime minister, a former officer in the Norwegian force. Why did Norwegians not simply say, "Oh my God, it's our own son who is the prime minister, so we should acquiesce to the occupation of our land"? Norwegian teachers rose up when Hitler attempted to modify the Norwegian education. They rose up. Hitler, the Germans arrested over 500 and took them up to the north of Norway that was very cold. The underground resistance raged on until Norway was liberated. So, union with Denmark, they didn't give up. Union with Sweden, they didn't give up. Occupation under Germany, they didn't give up. And today, those who didn't give up will look back with pride of the decision, about the decision they made. And all those enablers in Norway, all those collaborators, all those colonial apologists, their great-grandchildren have their heads buried in sand like ostrich in utter shame. And today, Norway collaborates with Denmark, with Sweden, like nothing happened. So that is the trajectory that the vice president has explained with respect to Ireland. And that's the similar trajectory that you find in here. I'm amazed by this history. Every 8th of May, which is the date that Norway was liberated from German occupation, every constitution came into force. The Norwegians go out, children, to remind these children of the sacrifices made to be able to have this country. And I was a participant during the 17th of May celebration just last week. I listened to the speech of one lady. It touched me. And she said, "Don't take your freedom for granted. Don't take your freedom for granted." And after she was done, we met along the sidewalk and I shook hands and I said, "Good speech." And I said, "I quite love the part when you said people shouldn't take their freedom for granted." She said, "Yes, because she has lived in many places where there is no freedom. And she understands what it means to have it. And you can lose it within a twinkle of an eye." Ambazonians, we must build power. We must leverage power in all its facets, and to be able to make sure that an inch of our territory is never threatened by anyone, any nation, any coalition, big or small. We must develop a long-term approach to our freedom and avoid shortcuts and learn from the history of others who have made it, and learn to persevere, to sacrifice, to do the hard job that is required to be done by every people who face a brutal neighbor determined to prevail over you, even using genocide. VP, you have the last word.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you have captured why we fight and the approach and policies of the Ambazonian Governing Council. Ambazonians, we have prevailed not because we are too strong. We are not yet strong. But Cameroon has got the message that in its history, it would never, ever try to rule Ambazonia again. That is why our policies have been designed, as the president has said, not for warmongering, but to make sure that during our quest for freedom and after independence, every Ambazonian will be armed, because we reside in a rough neighborhood, east and west. That would give us what I term the Israelite advantage. That would make it clear, as the president has said, that any coalition, big or small, can never threaten Ambazonia. Ambazonians, that can be done, and that will be done in the territory. But also, you need to engage the political systems, the social and civil systems in your country of residence in order to start the journey to the long-term approach to our freedom. Because even after freedom, we need to have partners. We need to influence decisions, just like the Palestinians are doing, just like the Israelites have done and they continuously do in different capitals around the world, because they are embedded in the system. You cannot change a system if you only petition. You cannot change a system if you depend on sympathy. You only change a system if you have political purchase, if you militate for that political, economic, social, civil system. So, and as such, I believe in the Ambazonian spirit. I believe in our quest for freedom. I know Cameroon is shattered. We only have one thing to do: to make sure that our power is unrivaled, to make sure that all the infiltrators, all the enablers, and all the barbarians that are present in Ambazonia, they pack out or we send them in body bags. Hail, hail this land of glory.
Your place day.
Your place over there. Oh, my place day. Shake,
My
shake.
place day.
Yeah, shake,
I'm
shake
for
day.
life.
Yeah, Amber for life. Big time. We either live free or we die fighting, and our young generation would continue.
There is nothing more precious in life than freedom.
Your freedom is in your hands.
There is nothing more precious in life than freedom.
Your freedom is in your hands. I have come here as the commander of this revolution to let you know that we will defeat Cameroon. We will not only defeat Cameroon, we will make it impossible for Cameroon again to ever invade our land.
Because this is the appointed generation. And we are going to see Biafra.
To glory we rise and never to fall. Here in a nation flowing rivers and holy. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Amazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. You most high God be the watchman of this nation. Amazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation.
Ça va passer, ça ne peut pas tomber.
Daɗe jiman ɗin yi watan. Tuwa kuma ka kawo ba.
Je vous l'ai dit.
Minister of this one bribe. See road where they make them. See how the road there. Now you never reach 1 year no. Look the road. When I see road, now in that. Now for Limbe. Now they call and say Victoria. People they don't know that Victoria. Now for Limbe. When I see the road. See road where they go for that new fee. See the road, they need to tell you now. Charity get to come here. They just say you're going to come here, can't check the road. Bad way, bad place. See country where they take up a main road. Bad. Very wicked people them. Animal. See road, they make a sit down. Aujourd'hui,
nous ne pouvons plus porter le 8 mars parce qu'on n'est pas à l'aise dans notre pays. Nous avons, tout est bouleversé. Le temps est différent, difficile, un style, on ne comprend pas. Il y a une partie du pays qui est dans la guerre. Les enfants sont tués par-ci par-là. Il y a l'injustice de part et d'autre. les femmes meurent, les viols, on n'entend pas. Le pays est dans l'insécurité. La vie est chère, devenue très chère au pays. Par exemple, les marchands, les vivres qui venaient de l'Ouest, par exemple, à vil prix, comme les carottes, les poivrons, les tomates, ça venait à vil prix. Aujourd'hui, c'est devenu à un stade où il faut avoir atteint une certaine classe avant de s'approprier. La carotte, par exemple, qui coûtait même 7 000, 6 000 le sac. Aujourd'hui, on parle de 20 000. Il y a les arachides qui étaient à 150 francs la boîte, 100 francs même. Aujourd'hui, nous parlons de 200, 250, voire même 300. Le poisson, alors, c'est la catastrophe. On n'en parle même plus pour la viande. Les légumes sont bons pour la santé, mais c'est devenu l'histoire de quelle classe de personnes. Vraiment, avec tout ça, on ne connaît pas comment on peut s'épanouir. Un jour comme celui-ci, on est obligé d'être triste, de montrer notre tristesse, parce que ça ne va pas. Nous sommes habillés en noir parce que vraiment, on essaye de s'exprimer. C'est une façon de s'exprimer. Si c'est pas parce que la tenue même du 8 mars était appropriée, peut-être à 5 000 francs, 6 000. Aujourd'hui, c'est devenu, je sais pas, on parle de 15 000. Vraiment, ce n'est même pas à la portée de la classe moyenne. Qu'est-ce qui va nous pousser à nous réjouir? Nous sommes obligés seulement de manifester notre mécontentement comme ça. Là. Vraiment, on ne connaît même pas où on se trouve. On est un peu perdu. Nos enfants, on se poumon, on sort très tôt le matin. On vient là, déjà à 3h34, nous sommes sur le marché. Il faut chercher à vendre pour s'approprier un peu d'argent pour préparer aux enfants. On les envoyer à l'école, subvenir à leurs besoins. Ce n'est déjà pas facile. Maintenant, quand on finit même avec la scolarité, et ils arrivent même, peut-être ils ont même le bac, ils vont même à l'université, ils arrivent même à la fin des études. Ils prendre place à nos côtés au marché, vraiment. Il faut qu'ils soient en train de vendre encore avec nous. Nous devons nous occuper de ces enfants-là. On s'est déjà occupé d'eux pendant tout le parcours scolaire. On va encore s'occuper d'eux et de leur famille. S'ils ne viennent pas là nous soutenir, ils vont même sortir dans la rue. Ceux qui seront des bandits, des voleurs, vraiment. On ne sait plus à quelle sorte se vouer. Voilà.
Let's watch this video.
What's that? What's that?
Reason why I come for you to make this live broadcast today, it go hurt many people, but now the truth that, but I don't care whether you hate me or you plot to say why do me anything, I don't fear, but I will tell you the truth. This situation for Kumba about police harassment is too much. The police harassment in Kumba is too much. It don't be for the level where if people don't talk am, when I go yes or let's say bloodshed don't happen for some place. Might be a policeman will be go down or a civilian will go down because of certain harassment where it not correct. And even they see you where they work for that peace, you be total their enemy because they make an ends meet with the situation on ground. I go talk am as they raw as they. Our people on ground zero, mostly the bike riders, they are going through hell in the hands of the corrupted public security police in Buya Road. Very bad. They go through a lot for their hand. A particular unit and to particular individuals inside the police force, they don't decide for say peace no come. The harassment is too much. I will tell now which way they. When they send a patrol team, say they go out to do a patrol, they go do patrol, they go do na control. Day before yesterday for my one precisely, around 10 o'clock in the evening, one normal police post, then for my one police where all man know, where everybody sabi that checkpoint. But when they send this police patrol, some particular individuals that they are working that they do them, they go hold control on top control. They need check na ID card, they need check na anything we go secure people. They out for extort money from the bike riders and making life uncomfortable for pedestrians. When they reach for there, that I think 2 days ago, I said 2 days ago, after for PHS Mbonge Road. If that one trigger me before make me account for your life, before you see me as I raised alarm yesterday from WhatsApp for because don't it happen again. But look, I said no. You know, I will speak the truth. Any man who want court whatsoever do anything, you know, concern me. When that police people they be there for the 2-star policeman was there present, she done inside motor. They pretend for say people they can't work that work. Now people they send them for shift or whatsoever and a fake lie. Again, and I believe say the boss of police commissioner he know what will happen because they don't give him this report countable times, but no action. We start to ask you kind things them. At the tail end, they ask you 5K. If you don't get that, they take that machine, can and go Sancha police. Go put them for day. When that machine don't sleep for day, you pay 25,000 for bail. When you sleep one day, they add money. Yes. When they take the bike, they go for day. At the tail end, they add money. You know if you claim the bike. At the tail end, they will sell the bike. Render people useless. Yes, that day when they make us so any kind of about succeed pass it by way out. When you don't go, you visit where you come on, you settle my one control. You do one come inside town and then turn out of town. My one only na inside town. Not be na out of town, na inside the town. But they are going out there for patrol. But they are doing control, extorting money. Putting the people on show. People distract. Mamili, the worst of video is that woman work out small picking. Newborn baby come on hospital, that picking nowhere. That woman trek from PHS. Enter inside Monte Carlo, rifle inside because of it. The Okada man they be easy for pass that control because it is fair own bike and he won't pay the manage his small life. He don't get risky step for 100 francs. You go pay how much for that control? You are either helping the people in that town or you are destroying them. You are destroying it because of self-interest. But nobody no one talk. When you talk, they threaten you. When you talk, they plot for do you bad thing. When you talk, they do you so. When you want to talk, they call you so. You want to talk, they threaten you so. That is it. How long will continue the fear? You know the country that will want them. They do that thing and the commissioner know them in person, but they do no action. Where it means automatically know what will happen. When they reach for day, 1 or 2 will vex me. I will talk and did their kind character. Some of the bad seats in the police force. We am speaking the truth. For most of the police members, them, you want come for meta quarters, for Baptist, that small entrance. They don't hang for there for night. Like 2 people there. They don't go hide their motor for very far. Can't hold up hang for corner day. As you come to tap, they don't jump for your skin. If you know because we get serious accidents, they hold your machine for day. You want that to start telling you different talk them. Is that how it's supposed to behave? When people want to say people not talk, make life uncomfortable. People that don't bomb their houses them. They get only one small Okada when they run village camp for town, can't survive. You don't even get IT, can even get play for sleep. You catch a machine. So man go can't testify say where ground and know this man that a machine he no thief am. You tell say jama fu man can. May go you go sell the machine. You render useless. Where don't run from forest. You don't get the one for chop. They burn down your house to ash. You get another small Okada where be survive. Maybe that's an old Chakara bike. For manage the small life, a woman fit chop, family fit chop. But you can't take that Okada from him. I want ask, are you instead trick you do not waiting? It means automatically with the rest, torture, mind, wicked man people their mind the way the relationship where the communication not be for Kumba where they between the army they go for it, go walk, it go slow, it go cut. Because of the kind of way these police people they treat civilians inside Kumba. It is wrong. It is wrong. I want the boss for national police may take note because one day policeman go get problem if they on civil with civilian want to move pistol he crack him put am for head who's love about don't talk so it means that you see killing no case go nowhere because you wear uniform you dey on civil attire what you should be a military man you talk with unarmed civilian you move pistol you broke him. The case end like that, because nobody can talk. Now still you give asking Escomat and you give picture, mental information. And that very station, police, they can make ID card every blessed day and night. What will happen? Every day they can make ID card. Every day they make ID card. Don't do it. We want. Now still them the help una. That statement alone, it is very wrong. I not find am funny. No man no be bad. That's something push them for that level. You not be fine passy. When you use such statement for you, it's wrong. So that people they sacrifice or not be sacrifice them. They pay on every day kind prim. It's the truth I'm speaking. Putting their life at stake. How much are you giving them? You can't tell this man go back for bush. Fuma lokan. You slappy because you wear uniform. When that thing happen, the person call, they say calm down. The next time, I'm telling you to pick. But not the way you go do am now. You better die for that place. That boy that head is shake. Yeah, fine, no, yeah, very well. Man, tell you this simple to no. You see those guys they drop. So one day way, you make that thing the fear gone. No one know the way the point that goes to the fear because if you any picking for the fear gone, no man will enter for the carry gun. If you don't want the fear gone, to be honest, listen the fact and the reality. All man for no surrender. Everybody for don't drop that gun. Now because they fear that gun, they prefer for die. And if some picking don't come out, Kumba the camp for the level where go bad because of the act, because of the action of this some of the corrupted police officers. They know them when they be corrupt. They know that they do bad thing them. The worst of it, you go broke gun. You put a civilian here. I get the picture in my phone. And they talking a play. Because they go keep because Mother Francisca for school for Kumba. They see the person for time they throw it for catch you policeman can't block. On CV, the one talk for you, hold the person start slap him. You move gun, crack him. Because the way you get Cameroon for your hand now. You don't wear uniform, you don't win over. Listen, no matter wear uniform again. You don't wear uniform. Me say you no law not if you follow you. I believe sir, when they report this for the commissioner, do no action. But I'll speak the truth. When they hold the picking, the commissioner march one for Chelsea fence to plus. To plus fence. He know what did happen. They know the game. Not a one, not be 2 times. He be aware of what did happen. You see, can't machine them for your place. You don't investigate how many. How many? I know what you mean for for 10 hours, you know what you mean? For trek, only trekking, you know rest. For 10 hours, 8 hours. Only for go find Amber boy for forest come back. Go and come how many hours? If you use 8 hours, go come and 16 hours. Sometimes just to go and come, people go for come and not come and sleep. Only distance, now food. You not be motorable. You not be accessible for road. Now only food. If you know what you mean. Now thing will happen 2017 because the police, their own lifestyle. People they trigger enter the forest. The very thing you see happen now. The very thing you see go on ground. And they just raise an eyebrow for talk the truth way they. If this matter no be adjusted, me I know who be these guys. So one day they hear road. So Escobar and they were you policeman, you go tell me go back for bush. He go draw that gun, he go do you something where he better say na kill you for that place. I tell you to I tell you. So when they the copy of the background, threatening. Say no call our name, information of character whatsoever. Who the fair that talk na lie? They need to do control. They need to do am. Okay, people they want mass make town the boom. Now them all patrolman the same person that no life, not easy for their side. Now wait till this. You want to go call say the amber. You want to so waiting. You feel like on the go follow am. You tell say the amber. And they tell you go do it to abandon them because no fit talk. They fear their life. They fear everyone go talk for you. Who? The person that be beaten that day. From my one for PHS on a BT, that police on a BT molesting, doing all this slap people there. If you never get small working relationship with some of the authorities then high for day. What about person where no get nobody on earth? That don't know more kind of man will come for some village, papa na power one tapa, he manage small life of town, wait till the pass through. Even that kind of man fit pass through that kind of level, wait till normal man fit pass through for una hand. It is wrong. The right is too much. It means say no man no get right. Or una one tell we say na so they tell una. They want to have ID card additional money na in front of sad case. Na sad case it is too much. People don't get that up to here. They don't tire of the harassment of police officers in town. You want to they move gun after the work of pistol, don't put up your head. If you play, they'll shoot you. If you come up, palm he die. They go write fake report. Fake report. You want to talk for who? You know who? You get who? They go write fake report. When you are harassing them, treating them that kind of way, they say no matter. Carry them, go lock, do that. You expect what to go happen at the tail end. What to go happen? Put administration and do them for work. Put me on them for work. We don't know what to the pass. I think that way they happen on daily basis. When they send patrol team, they go hold control. Inside town, not be out of town, inside town. Don't say they do not check up or something don't happen. No. They come to harass, buy and sell them. Okada people there. Okada people be very important, very instrumental for town. Because there are people that they get town. See, you want to also for the meet Okada man. If your girlfriend do something, meet Okada man will tell you the secret. Because they know all things they happen for town. It's the fact. Maybe not for the treat them kind of level. When you want to work for night, pap. So matter you want to work away, you want to work for night, so when you get down to your small Okada, either way small apron or whatsoever, you know ID card, you go holy, you say make it ID card. The ID card work with a loss. He go start her. But you say now Okada man that you know him fine. You do it just give 5,000. You know get carry Okada M on top back momoto. Bam, you go keep our station. Now they work that now. You want to take an 25k. You know if you take a 25, as a day you add the same money they add. For the kind of time you get the money for sir. Now they work that where they happen for town day. I talk now so I don't go na enemy. I know. I be aware and I be prepared. It's a fact I'm telling you, but I will not stop to speak the truth. To make them to get angry. The only way to get angry, I will say, wait, I want trigger and make the thing start back again as fresh. It don't continue. That is why I bring them out here. It don't continue, and they do, and so they block everything for destroy everything for don't work for. Now when I start the problem, because of all the kind of lifestyle there, maybe begin a very book carry gun, which was a very bad approach. Now when I cannot push up picking up for expense of now. If you say it life be threat, it life not be safe. To be honest, you using that statement, they go back for forest. What does that mean? It means it not be safe and secured. Therefore, police not doing so. They say be angry, some of them why they drop. You be angry with me, but that's the truth. That is the truth. That is why you see Amber Boy, they get bad. They get different anger when it comes to police and even gendarme. And they tell the truth. Call the 100 of ex-combat and they put them ask them question. They will tell you one and the same thing. Yes, they be entered because of the maltreatment of these people, of these two force them, they force them. And they tell and wait to happen. Now it trigger the whole this thing. You feel that you need for people not feel wear them. Those guys, you think say when they put them for that military force, if you do more than them, you don't mean say when they inside some force, take advantage of everything. You do anyhow with any civilian because of waiting no get voice for talk. When you want to talk, when threaten a life, when plot for any life. That they rule that way there. You want to talk, when start planning, may enter, where enter una send it for prison. After una write anything about it, no man will talk. He show you ID card. You break money, show you ID card. Show you pass. Tell you where it be. You will go slappy for no good reason. You want to talk, you slap you again. Even your boss, the commissioner can say, no, they don't give you report uncountable times. Me, I get private number. I don't go write for you. I'll talk and through. I don't go write for your office one-on-one. I talk for you for anything about ex-combat. I tell me go back for bush one-on-one. I don't care to talk the truth one-on-one. I tell you it's not good. Those guys are human beings. Why are we treating each other like that? Because we have position of power. I don't want to not do and go right for that. I tell you what you say, not fine. It is wrong. I know who with these guys them. Say ground, we don't tire we. Man of you work for night. You want that, man don't go hide for any corner. You want come to public come off your skin. Now wait till it happen. You want to see that 2, 3. You don't go ahead and put us on it's a ground. So don't better take that 3, 4 now. We break the so hold them for day. Anything happen may happen. We don't tire we. You take some kind of my machine when a life step in that for your life you can survive. You know what you mean? You better die you. You better kill it for that place. That's you take that machine go. You cry go look at that you to better. You know what you mean? You all permanent they give you, all salary they give you. Yes, I don't talk the truth. You want do me anything, I don't talk the truth, I do them. I don't talk the truth. If you think you can do it, stop doing. You not accept. When I start the whole thing, no, they see bring problem back. If you don't adjust this issue for that picking them, you know fine. You don't have too much now waiting. Policeman, for no mass a constable, full man locan. After go be fake report, you send them for up. Fake report, he will cry. He go lost now. He go stop for prison for no nothing now. Now the work that go on for them. If you put him on motor, you carry go so you go right waiting. Now one moment he said, you don't carry now for that place, go station, one go right waiting for you. To be honest, you know fine. May the police they tell we if there is something there behind me, they tell we it is too much. Now wait yourself. IT card problem na different thing. Insecurity na different thing. Now wait man go run out of come without say na problem for una hand. Now wait you want to do small business na problem for una hand. Now wait too much capping in the full basket will end for that level.
They can't give you your basic need. What else can you have? I'm like, what? Theater, because a theater is a place.
Let's watch this video.
Deux personnes. Voilà.